Hey, so I'm here with Mark Cunningham. You there, Mark?
Yes, I am.
And Mark does teach you something very interesting, erotic hypnosis. And on this call, he's going to tell us all about it, aren't you, Mark?
Yeah, I'll do the best I can, Adam.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you discovered erotic hypnosis, and then tell us what it can do for us?
Well, erotic hypnosis, strictly speaking, has been around for as long as men and women have been communicating to each other. The hypnosis part is simply capturing her imagination, leading her through rapport and descriptive language, body language, your own energy states, leading her into that state that we call trance. And within trance, she will stop making judgments like, is this real or not real? Is this good or bad? Is it me or not me? Instead, she tends to just go along with what you are saying and doing, because by going along, she gets to not only have wonderful feelings of sensation, emotions, and pleasure, but also she wants it to continue. And so the only way that she knows how to make that continue is to continue following your suggestions, or even in a frighteningly short time, directly obeying the commands that you give her.
That sounds very powerful, and it sounds like something that, if used with integrity, is going to be a tool for massive pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's I've got a specialized program that I use just for the erotic training of women that
Uh-huh.
I personally have run over 400 women through, and these women come from all ages, from say 19 up into their 60s, all walks of life, education, nationalities, you name it, and I've not had a single woman complain, reject, or even fight me on it.
So, and presumably, you've had women who either have never experienced an orgasm, or you've had women who were, in the typical scenario where sex is one clitoral orgasm and then they're done.
Right, right, yeah.
And you're able to elevate them and let them experience, presumably, many different kinds of orgasm and, an unlimited number.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've taken women who are totally anorgasmic, that is, they had no orgasmic response at all, and within a single session, been able to have them experience full body orgasms, screaming orgasms, and the fastest I've ever done it, going from totally blocked to screaming orgasm, has been 20 minutes, and this is two people sitting fully clothed, talking.
That's powerful, and that's a rapid turnaround.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's a rapid turnaround. So here's the question. I already know the answer, but it's worth me asking for guys to hear. Can any guy learn to give his woman erotic hypnosis?
The good news is yes. I teach
Uh-huh.
this to absolutely ordinary guys all over the world. The only thing that is required is you have to stop, you have to get out of your own head. You have to stop thinking about there's something wrong with you, or you're not going to be able to do something correctly, or any of the self-limiting bullshit thoughts that we're all prey to. But they
Yeah.
also have to be willing to, well, put themselves in a learner's position. Adam, one of
Uh,
the biggest barriers men face is quite often they're successful in some form of their life, and they think that because I'm smart and successful here, then I ought to be able to just walk in and pick up anything and have an equivalent level of success at a brand new
yeah.
field. And the fact is, there are some things you need to learn, but they're simple. I actually teach children how to do hypnosis, and unless you think that you have less on the ball than the average 7-year-old, then chances are you're going to be able to grasp it rapidly.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that sex and sexual pleasure is this wonderful gift that we humans have been given, and everybody wants to experience it, but very few people really take the time and effort to learn how to experience it.
Well,
And I think most guys just assume that they're either good at it or they know they're bad at it, but they're too stubborn to do
yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah. On the women's side, I refer to it as the golden pussy syndrome, which they assume that because they have one, they know how to run it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and the next challenge is you teach somebody to experience something better than they've experienced before, and they go, holy crap, this is fantastic, I'm done. When actually they should be sitting back and going, that was freaking amazing, how good
Yeah.
at this can I get?
Yeah, I experience this a lot with the men I teach. So the typical scenario is they come to my website or they come to me for one-on-one coaching and they want to learn how to give their women pleasure, which is very admirable. And they're usually in a situation where they either give her a single orgasm or no orgasms, and it always involves stimulating the clitoris in some way,
Yeah.
which is kind of degrading. If you're having intercourse and you sort of rub a clitoris, it's kind of like, what's the point? So then I teach them how to give a vaginal orgasms, and as you've just said, they think it's fantastic, and then they think they're done. They think they're a master.
Yeah.
When the reality is, we can move on to all kinds of crazy orgasms, all the way to a point where we don't even have to touch the woman physically
Well,
to get her off.
of course, physical sensation is not required. It's one of the biggest
No.
misunderstandings that men have. Well, men and women in general have, is that orgasm is a mental phenomenon. I mean, let me give you a real brief example. Let's say that you're riding on a train and somebody accidentally reaches out and touches you on the arm in a certain way, and chances are you look up and it just means nothing to you. If, however, there you are, let's say you're alone or you're in a casual social setting, but you're with someone who genuinely turns you on and they're responding really well and they're looking at you in that way and the chemistry is really clicking. Now, if that person were to reach out and touch you in the same spot with the same pressure, your nerves are going to fire in exactly the same way as when somebody touched you on the train. But the way your mind interprets that sensation is radically different. The actual sexual response occurs in terms of thoughts inside your mind.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's all to do with anchoring and trigger points, right?
Yeah, sure. That's what, NLP, which is actually a form of hypnosis, and then mainstream conventional hypnosis teach this as just a standard tool because you can anchor anything to a touch. But what's even more important to understand is when you capture and lead their imagination and take them to that spot where you can generate pleasure through suggestion, through conversation, through a casual look. I mean, I like to anchor women's pleasure response to the color of my eyes, the sound of my voice, the fact that I'm physically present, or even with the real highly responsive ones, they can go into orgasm just at the memory, the thought that I exist somewhere.
I mean, that's super powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, me and with my girlfriend, I've anchored things a little bit more. I've anchored things to non-sexual body parts, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure,
or semi-sexual. So, for instance, I can now suck her bottom lip, and there's no mention of orgasm, but she orgasms. And it doesn't matter whether it's during intercourse or just a simple kiss before I leave the house or she leaves the house.
Right.
We've done it with spanking, which is kind of fun.
Well,
on the 10th spank, you're going to orgasm, and they do. But I think, a lot of guys, some guys read my stuff and then they go and tell their women about it. Mm-hmm. And they get massive resistance. Because if her reality is, okay, I'm used to a clitoral orgasm, and now you're telling me you can get me off with just your voice, or with a slap on the ass, there's resistance. So I'm guessing with the hypnosis, it's a great way of overcoming the resistance, because once she's in that trance state, she's going to be open and suggestible to things that she just wouldn't be if she were not in that state.
Sure. And I mean, you have to use some common sense. I mean, let's say, for example, that you learned that clitoral stimulation was the gateway to orgasm. Most men would start banging on that thing like they're running a belt sander, and they're like, And so the woman will be stimulated, but still she's going to have an orgasm in spite of you. The kinds of things that you're describing in terms, you're much more playful, and you're opening up whole new areas of approaching sexuality, including your girlfriend probably didn't have a defense system against a little gentle lip sucking leading to orgasm because she hadn't thought about it before, so therefore she hadn't really built this defense up. But where I find women putting up the strongest level of defense towards learning how to relax and play in trance is one of the last remaining significant taboos within Western culture is for a modern, educated, intelligent woman to surrender control to her man. I mean, she'll do most anything before she does that because she's been taught from the cradle now that women just aren't supposed to do that. Well, and sadly, there can only be one hypnotist in any given trance session. And so the process works better when she relaxes and allows a man to lead. There are areas in her life where she's perfectly happy to do that, like, say, dancing, conventional, traditional dancing, where everybody knows that if both partners are trying to lead, you're just going to stumble around and crash into each other, and it's not going to be very romantic. If, however, she feels the man's arm around her, and he looks into her eyes, the music starts, and he gently but firmly begins to lead her, and she follows, it very rapidly turns into beauty and sex.
It makes total sense. I mean, this is why the biggest thing I teach is this idea of leading your woman. Along with the dirty talk, because it's almost like the leading her physically is necessary, but the words allow you to lead her mentally. That's the way I see it.
Absolutely.
And in my own life, as over the past 10 years, I became better and better at selecting the women up front who were ready to be led. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't experience some resistance along the way, but yeah, there's a lot of women out there who kind of, they're not ready.
Right.
And there's a lot of women who are just ready, and all you need to do is step up and act like a man.
Well, it comes down to changing your selection criteria, doesn't it? I mean,
definitely.
Yeah, a lot of guys are running around. In fact, there was this one semi-famous incident. Semi-famous because I now mock this guy in all my classes. But yeah, he came up to me and he goes, Mark, what kind of man are you? And I go, well, that's kind of a odd open question.
Yeah.
He goes, well, are you a tits man? Are you a leg man? Are you go for blondes? And I go, no. I screen for who's suggestible, who's actually going to follow me in and let me lead her. And he was absolutely dumbfounded. It never even occurred to him that the primary criteria you should be looking for is a woman who's awake, aware, and wants to play.
Yeah, I like those words. I mean, I'm usually looking for some confidence, real confidence, not fake confidence. Like alcohol-induced confidence, not that kind of confidence. And I'm usually looking for intelligence and creativity and those kinds of things, which I fit in perfectly with what you just said.
Yeah.
I think a lot of men have this misconception that you have to have a lot of fun when you're young with sluts, and then you have to find a nice girl who you marry, and you have to accept that she's not going to be adventurous in the bedroom. And I've actually found that the women, and I found this out the hard way when I was younger, the women who project massive sexuality in the nightclubs are actually the ones who are so dependent on alcohol or drugs that by the time it comes to the sex, they're actually nothing.
Oh,
they're not in the right headspace.
Right, and ultimately they will sober up, right?
And then they're usually or often very insecure and needy, and that's why they maybe dress the way they do and rely on the chemical substances that they need to grow a personality.
Yeah, it's their what in the trade we call their physical sexual women. In other words, they tend to be very flashy, very out there, very flirty. They're leading with their sexuality, and they're hiding their emotional state because emotionally they feel very, very vulnerable, and so instead they're displaying sexuality as a form of transaction. It's like, I'm the pastry in a window. Wouldn't you like to have a taste?
Yeah, and the guys who go for those women are, they're not thinking correctly, and it's not a path to great sex.
Right.
It makes perfect sense that for the hypnosis to work best, you've got to pick the right woman. Tell the guys listening how they can learn more about hypnosis, erotic hypnosis, if it's appealed to them, which, if they're serious about having great sex, I'm sure it has appealed to them.
Well, certainly. I mean, if somebody hops on the internet, types in erotic hypnosis, you're going to get about 1 million hits back. And it's left up to you to try to sort through, what's good, what's bad, what's ridiculous. I mean, frankly, there are erotic hypnosis trainers out there who don't actually have a technique or a product. What they do have is a fabulous marketing campaign. Yeah. My advice would be find someone who is not so much trying to sell you something, sell you this fabulous future, but rather someone who's saying, hey, look, sexuality is a normal, healthy part of life, and until you get that part of your life running, no other part of your life is going to work at all. And then look for people who are leading with some small, simple examples, or who are actually demonstrating for you in a way that you can access, just demonstrating that it is possible. Here's how it's possible. Watch me do it, and then you do these things and find out what your results are. Again, most trainers don't do that because that's something that can be very readily tested after even the first lesson. And of course, anytime you test something, there's a possibility of success or failure. And most trainers don't want to address the fact that either the trainee might fail or that their technique is just full of shit.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, I mean, I've seen a couple of your videos where you've hypnotized women fully clothed. You both sat there in, what appears to be like a living room or some kind of just, normal room. You're not in the bedroom. She's fully clothed. I've seen you bring these women to orgasm, which is super impressive. So, I think guys should check out your stuff. And we're going to put a link up at the end of this video to one of your programs, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What's the program called?
It's called the Renegade Hypnotist Project.
Okay.
It's one where it was kind of my put up or shut up move, Adam, because people were saying, oh my God, it's like, this isn't real. So then I put up videos where I was doing it, like I say, in 20 minutes or so. Some of these videos, it's like they're shot in the least sexual environment you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
But even so, it works. And then they were going, well, gosh, Mark, it's that was you paid that model, okay, but that would never work with an ordinary girl. So in the project, we deliberately shot women of all ages, all backgrounds, all kinds of mindsets they're bringing in, and showing how if you just do these things in this sequence, not even repeating my words, but just applying this process, how you move a woman from one emotional state to another in a sequence. And we ended up with hundreds and hundreds of hours of me working. And as part of the project, we just decided to make that all available at these, it's really crazy cheap prices, mostly because all my videos hosted off of Amazon, and I'll have 1,000 users look at my stuff simultaneously, and Amazon charges me $100 a month for it.
Good on Amazon then. It lets people learn how to give women incredible pleasure very cheaply.
Yeah.
We should be thankful for that. So if they click the link in this video, you're going to see Mark's stuff. You're going to see him giving women orgasms in this way, and you can check out his product. Thanks for being with us, Mark. You've shared some interesting stuff for sure.
You bet, Adam. And next time I'm in London, let's go run around and play.